Can
Bear
you
with
hold for a
me.
second? Flo, can you?
I did.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So we're recording. Okay, sorry, Rick.
Okay, so just protocol for everybody in the Zoom meeting. We just ask if you want to speak, somehow let me know either by raising your hand. And if you're muted, I'll ask you to unmute and then talk. Hi, Bob, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Hey, Bob.
Do we have anybody who isn't here so that we can seat Justin?
If you're not here, please raise your hand.
Rich is not here, I don't think.
We don't have Rich. We have-
Okay,
we have
Hi,
Alex,
the
Larry.
person you're about to speak with has call captions turned on. They'll see captions of what you say to help them listen along.
Who's
I don't
doing
know
that?
Who that is.
don't know.
I just muted a person named Pixel.
Okay,
Name-
so I'm going to call the meeting to order. In terms of roll call, Flo, do you need me to go through that or do you have everything?
No?
And we will be seating Justin in lieu of Rich's position.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. Any changes to the agenda separate from what we received last minute here? Appreciate it, getting an updated one just before the meeting.
You're welcome.
No, everything's all set.
Okay. First up is the approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting minutes of December 14th, 2020. It's been some time, hasn't it, everybody? Any corrections or changes to the minutes
No.
from anybody?
No.
I'll make a motion that we accept them as presented. Do I have a second?
Who seconded?
Alex.
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 Alex, any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And typically, Alex, Justin, you wouldn't vote on that because you weren't present at that meeting. You would have abstained from that.
And Vera,
I
what else?
abstain also.
Okay,
Right.
Okay,
I have to abstain because I was absent.
okay. That said, the motion passes. Next up is the audience of citizens for anything that's not already on our agenda. Okay, nothing. So we're going to be opening a public hearing. It's an application for Scott and Lori Keegan for a re-subdivision of 279 Route 87, Assessors Map 17, Lot 5, into two lots, the new to be conveyed to a family member. That said, I will either turn it over to the applicant or to Paula.
I'll just start
Mr. and Miss-
briefly.
Okay,
Just for the record, I just want to state that the public hearing notice was noticed per the Connecticut State Statutes as amended by the executive order by the governor. And we have received inland wetlands approval on the subdivision and sanitarian approval.
okay. Do you want to, anything else you need to bring up, Paula, or should we ask the applicants to speak up on this?
I think you can go to the applicants, and I do have some other things, but we can do that after the applicants have spoken.
And I believe the applicants, Mr. Hardesty, will you be speaking for the applicants or will they be speaking to this?
I think I can speak for them, but they're on. Lori's shaking her head, so I guess that's okay. Yeah. I'm Jerry Hardesty, CES Engineering. The subdivision before you is a re-subdivision, which is, I guess, why we're here. This part of a large parcel that was originally subdivided in 1973, I believe. And the Keegans bought their 12-acre parcel in 2000. They, as you stated, want to split this now and give a piece of this parcel to their daughter for her house. That still leaves a 4.5 and 7.5 acre parcels there, that's still pretty good size. The lot, as you may be familiar with, is relatively flat, got a very nice house on it now. There's already a dirt road into the proposed new building lot, so they won't have to make a new cut through the existing stone wall. It's really a very simple and straightforward subdivision and application. I think Paula stated, and my internet went out for a bit. Eastern Highlands Health District approvals for this and wetlands approvals as well.
Okay. Any features, any drainage issues that you have to address as part of the construction?
Not
looking
really.
through-
As I said, it's a pretty flat lot. There is wetlands to the roadside of the proposed building area and also to the far side of it, but they're not ponds or anything like that. And as I said, it's pretty flat, so there should not be a lot of movement of soils.
Okay. Very good. Anything else that you'd like to add, or the Keegans or Paula? And then I'll open it up to any questions from the commissioners and then the public after that.
The only thing that I wanted to mention is that one of the requests from the applicant is to waive the requirement of the fee in lieu, which is something that our subdivision regulations require is open space or a payment of a fee in lieu. And the our regulations do have an exception that if the land is being given or sold to a family member, that there is no required fee in lieu or open space requirements. However, the lot cannot be sold to a non-family member within the first 5 years. So they're requesting a waiver of that, and that's I set out a suggested motion to deal with the waiver once we're out of the public hearing.
Okay. Anything
I al-
else? Any questions from the commission?
Subject?
Any questions about the re-subdivision application from any of the commissioners?
Yes, Paula, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, you said that if they're going to seek a waiver for that, they have to hold the property for 5 years, is that correct?
Yes, or if they do not, then the fee in lieu or open space requirement has to be met.
Right. How do we track that sale?
It's through the deed, the
Okay.
stipulation within the deed,
Okay,
which there's all of our subdivisions, even just a one lot subdivision, has conditions of approval, which you should have gotten that. I believe it was attached to my memorandum that lists what has to happen prior to the Mylars are filed, prior to the lot transfer, and prior to the issuance of a building permit. And in it says the deed shall include the restriction that if the property is sold to a non-family member within the first 5 years, a fee in lieu of open space as determined by the Planning and Zoning Commission shall be paid to the town.
So normally, the choice for a deed, for a land dedication or a fee in lieu of is subject to the commission's choice at the time. Is there any provision to address that at a later time?
Meaning that you might want
I'm assuming we don't. I'm assuming for a moment that we don't, but that provision where we have that option, Paula, I don't remember how we've handled this in the past. So I'm looking for some illumination on that issue.
what we've done in the past, we've had a few of these since I've been here. And what we've done in the past is sort of take a look at the land and think about whether or not there should be an area would be a good open space candidate for the town versus the fee in lieu. And the other thing that the commission has said over the years is that looking for more valuable open space in terms of useful to the town for open space, and if there isn't that situation, that you would look for fee in lieu.
Yeah, I understand all that. I was just asking for what the mechanics of handling it would be if we got to a point, because I think if we don't make that decision now, we would have to make it then in the event it did get conveyed to a non-family member. And I'd rather address it now so that it's not an open-ended issue, so that it's a clean approval. I mean, if we come to a consensus now, maybe non-binding, but if we say, there's really no potential value for the town to take title to any percentage of the land. And I don't even know that we can do that without input from the various agencies that we would normally gain that input from.
Correct.
But in that event, that's why I asked the question about how we would deal with it, because we wouldn't go through a normal review process to go down the path of fee in lieu of, if we decided that that would be the only way to handle it in the future. And so, like I said, if I'm assuming we're going to grant approval of this, I'd like it to be a clean approval that has no unforeseen conditions or open-ended conditions attached to it.
My suggested condition was that a fee in lieu of open space dollar amount would be determined by the PZC, should be paid to the town. So the fee in lieu, not an open space consideration where it's open-ended, whether it would be, part of the front yard or part of the backyard but it's just a clean fee in lieu.
I know, but that doesn't address the question I just asked. The question was centered around if we do that, we're circumventing our normal process of letting this go out
Yes.
to review for open space. And is
Correct.
that within our legal purview to do that? And if it is it advisable? I'm all for saying that we would only go for fee in lieu of to make it
Right,
clean,
yeah.
but I want to make sure that's a defendable direction for us to go down.
I did not ask the Conservation Commission to take a look at this. This would only be triggered if the property were sold to a non-family member within 5 years.
All kinds of things happen that we never had any idea would happen.
I hear you. I
Okay.
apologize. I did not reach out to the Conservation Commission.
I didn't think of this before this evening, so there's no fault here. I'm just throwing this out to the commission. I'm perfectly comfortable saying that if it is sold to a non-family member, that it would be deed in lieu of, but is that defendable? Is that a legally acceptable premise to put into the approval condition if we so choose to approve? And I'm comfortable with it. I just don't want it to be illegal.
I don't believe it's illegal. I would have to do some research in reading the regulations.
Okay.
I mean, we're not today making a decision about the open space because it's only would be triggered if within 5 years it's sold to a non-family member.
I'm aware of that, but I'd like some guidance for the future in case we need to invoke it. I'd rather have that discussion now than open up a new can of worms in 4.5 years or something like that. I just trying to be tidy about it.
Hey, Rick, are you trying to determine a dollar amount at this point in time?
No. That would be a retroactive appraisal of the pre-development value of the property. Not even slightly trying to do that. I'm just trying to say that if we're basically going to subdivide this and hand it off, we're precluding any sort of analysis of any land dedication to the town. And I don't think this backs up to town land, but I could be mistaken. But if it did, maybe the town would rather see the option in the future if it were sold to a non-family member to be some sort of land dedication to the town. Very unlikely. I'd rather have that conversation tonight rather than in 4.5 years. Am I going too far with this? Does anyone think? I don't mean to be obtuse about it. I just think it's something that all kinds of things happen that we don't anticipate. I'm sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say, Paul?
The condition could be changed to say that that the open space requirement must be met. And then at that point, in 4.5 years, which I don't think will.
As long as they haven't built a swimming pool on the land that the town would want.
We'd get a
Come
pool.
on. That's why I want to address it now and have it a done deal and a non-issue. They have a right to reasonable use of their land. And I don't want to have a cloud over it that says for 5 years, something else could happen. So I'm fine with signing off on saying that if it gets sold to a non-family member, it would be a fee in lieu of. I just want to make sure that's a defendable legal stance to take about it. And I don't anticipate it happening. I mean, none of us do, but
Things
we are, by not addressing it now, we're precluding the analysis later.
I mean, I did not involve the Conservation Commission or the chair of the Conservation Commission. I know the land, I looked at the land and I looked to see, is this land that we would conceivably want? Does it butt up against something? It
I
does
don't
butt
think
up.
we would, but again, we have a process that we've used.
I can't answer that to you tonight without doing some research, and I'm apologizing for not having anticipated that.
Well, I'm fine moving past it and just saying that a fee in lieu of will be paid if it gets sold to a non-family member. I just don't want that to be non-defensible from a legal standpoint, because I don't want the applicant, I'm assuming we're going to approve this, but that maybe I'm assuming too much. But I don't want the applicant to feel that their land is in limbo going forward, not in any way whatsoever. And I'd rather have it clean and give them a quick approval if we have no issues with this. Any thoughts from the commission members? Boy, you guys are quiet tonight.
I don't have any problem. I'm just trying to think why you can't establish a price now. If you want to go that route, or do you rather not?
Well, because it requires an appraisal, and it's a fee for an appraisal that might never get used. And appraisers can look back historically and do a historical appraisal if it's
Right.
needed in the future.
It's actually easier.
What?
It's actually easier to go back because you've got.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the same business.
Comparisons.
Yeah.
The problem is that our subdivision regulations, section 9, says that the Conservation Commission will be included, will review the process as to whether or not land should be acquired or fee in lieu.
Okay. So that would
And
be
I did not do that.
Okay.
And it's maybe COVID brain just from working out of the house for so long now. But it just did not occur to me, and I apologize for that.
Well, I don't
Let
think
me-
I don't think we can
I'm sorry, go
approve
ahead.
it based on that.
Let me ask the applicant, Scott, Lori, can we just hear from you on this? What's your time frame for getting this done and moving forward with something? If we wait till our next meeting so that we can run it out before open space to give us a perspective like our regulations consider, is that type of delay a problem for you at all?
It's 2
Well,
weeks.
we have plans to start a house for my daughter, Brianna.
Okay.
I've been a resident of this town for over 50 years, and I don't see my family going anywhere. They're a young married couple, excited to build. We're trying to get started as soon as possible, and they're living with me. That's one of the reasons why I'm trying.
Oh, did we really take care of this tonight, huh?
The land, my property is surrounded by the Clark property, which is Joshua's trust. Between my land and the land that Mrs. Clark used to own is a piece of property that was owned by, I guess, her sister, Harriet. So the town has a 50-foot or better access to the rear of the property through that trust. I don't have a problem with anybody putting a fee on it because I don't see my daughter going anywhere. But I'd like to put a building permit in as soon as possible. Everything's ready to go.
I understand, but let me explain why I'm digging into this so much.
Yeah.
Because I don't want there to be a potential that we go back and review this and decide a fee in lieu of. Let's assume we waive the fee in lieu of because it's a family member. We still, by our regulations, are somewhat obligated to have considered whether or not we want to waive it, number one, and number two, whether we want a fee in lieu of if we were not to waive it. And so to not have gone through that process, I don't want to put a cloud over the approval that somebody could challenge it in court. And we're trying to just do this and be clean about it. I don't think anyone, I don't mean to speak for the commission. I'm assuming none of you want a fee in lieu of, correct?
You mean,
Yeah, so we,
right.
A fee, so we're inclined to grant the waiver of the fee in lieu of. I mean, that's good, nice to our neighbors. But if it were to get sold, then it would trigger this. And I'd rather have all that language clean right now. If we go out to the Open Space Committee and they say, no, we'd have no interest going forward, it would be clear if this got sold within 5 years, it would be a fee in lieu of, and there's nobody could, we would have gone through our regulatory process. The minute we cut a corner on a regulatory process, and this is a bit, unlikely for someone to challenge it, but you never know when somebody wants to take exception to something. I'm sorry.
That's why I was suggesting if the condition were changed to be that the open space requirement per section of the subdivision regulations would need to be met. At that point, in 4.5 years, then the Conservation Commission can take a look at it and say, yes, we'd like 50 feet across the back next to Joshua's Trust, which I do know that's back there.
Yeah, but the thing is, if something's built on that section of land that we would want to dedicate, it precludes the ability for that as a solution. And I'm just trying to talk through this in a way that says, why create a paradox or a problematic situation possibly in the future if we can avoid it now? We can deal with this very cleanly now. Kicking it down the road is not viable. Like I said, what if they put a swimming pool back there? I'm not
in the wetlands.
Lori, I'm not making any assumption. I'm just saying that could get really ugly if open space says, yeah, we want the last, 100 feet of the land. We don't want a fee in lieu of, and some future commission decides that's the only way to resolve this because it gets sold. There could be some structure built on there that is a problem. Am I making more out of this? Let me ask the commission. Am I making more out of this than I should?
Rick, can I just interrupt for a second? The
I
land,
was asking the commission to weigh in, Paula.
I think you have to have the conservation people weigh in on it. I just
That's
do.
my point.
Why can't we just push it to the next meeting?
Yeah,
That's
2
what
weeks.
I'm suggesting we're going to do. Normally, I'd like to get this done tonight for them, but I'd rather
Well,
put
I
2 weeks
understand
in.
that, but why don't we just, dodge the bullet in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And then it will be clean, like you suggested.
Okay.
the section that they're asking the waiver from does not mention anything about fee in lieu or it just says the open space requirement needs to be met, period.
Yeah.
So
Is all the waiver section says.
I
The
understand all
land,
that, Paula. I
the
think we
land,
understand, Paula, we understand that very clearly.
the land adjacent to the open space, that if wetlands wanted, conservation wanted anything, they would probably want the land that abuts the current Joshua Trust land. That's all wetlands. So there probably will not be a swimming pool in that.
The probably doesn't work as well as definitely.
Okay, all right.
That's my point. Okay, so
I apologize, yeah.
No, you don't need to apologize. I didn't think of it before tonight, so you didn't. It's not a big deal. I'd really like to approve it tonight, but I'd really rather give them the cleanest possible approval. That's really where I'm at. So Scott, Lori, I think what we'd like to do is send it out there to get open space to formally say, no, we have no interest in the land. And then now we have a very simple clause in an approval that says, if it's conveyed to a non-family member within 5 years, a fee in lieu of will be assessed on the transaction. And that's probably the best solution. And I was trying to ask questions about what your plans are with in terms of getting started. I don't like to delay you for a couple of weeks, but I think that's inevitable as part of this, unfortunately.
There's one more very pedantic thing, Paula, and that's that the 2 site plans that were submitted are signed by engineers, but the seal is not shown.
You don't need to show a seal as long as you, the seal, I feel the seals.
You did what?
I have a paper version here and you can feel that the seals are here.
They're embossed? They're embossed?
Yes,
Okay.
they are.
Didn't
Yeah.
show up on the
Yeah.
PDF.
You just need
Okay.
to have a signature and the, your license number. You don't really need to have a seal, actually.
So let me suggest this.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. You have to review the state, you have to review the state statutes. I believe you have to have it either embossed or stamped. And the signature.
Not for the license that I hold, which is very similar to the engineer's license. Perhaps we could speed this up tonight by making sure that the rest of the conditions of approval are okay with the commission. The applicant has looked at them and has said that they are okay with them.
Okay. Yeah, it's very straightforward. So
Yep.
what I'm suggesting is, and if we don't get any input by our next meeting, then we'll take action then.
Sounds
Everyone
good.
good with that?
Yes.
We'll give open space an opportunity. If for some reason they don't meet or they don't give us input, we gave them the opportunity, and that covers us legally. And that only slows them down by a couple weeks. Everyone good?
Good with that.
So I'm going to make a motion that we,
Wait, You may have some public that might have something to
I
say.
apologize. I
And,
got to
and,
myself.
and I wanted to say before I forget, David Ram, his property is within 500 feet of the Keegan property, and he was notified, and he said that he is in favor of this subdivision and hopes that the town would approve it.
Well, of course he does. He's related. Why wouldn't he have a problem with that? Tell Lori.
Not,
Tell Lori. She shouldn't have any problem with that.
I understand. Any member of the public that would like to speak on this application? Anything else from the board, the commission members? Oh, that said, so the public, any public comment?
I'm done.
I take the silence to mean that no one from the public wants to speak, weigh in on this. Okay. So I'm going to make a motion that our next meeting is on the 19th,
22nd. No?
22nd.
On the 22nd.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we continue this public hearing to February 22nd, 2021, 7 p.m. at our next meeting.
Sounds
Does
good.
everyone favor that? You second that, Tom?
I second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And so Paula, to be clear, we're going to ask you to reach out to the Conservation Commission and tell them we absolutely need input prior to our February 22nd meeting. Okay.
I will contact Ann in the morning.
So Scott, Lori, I just want to make sure you understand. I'm just trying to make this clean so nobody can appeal it once we approve it. So it's pretty straightforward. You know, I don't think there's any question we're going to approve it. Just I was really worried that somebody could appeal that approval if they're trying to make life difficult. And I don't want to give them a hook into this. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
no problem.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
That's best.
Next up is so unfinished business. We won't be voting on it because the public hearing is continued. And then any new business that
Nothing.
wasn't detailed on?
We have no new business.
Okay. How much do you guys want to get into the regulations tonight?
I need to talk, there's a couple things that I need to bring up under reg revisions, one of which is a potential for that's come to us. And I also, the section 21.4 Columbia Lake Watershed Protection, Dan O'Neill and I have been working on making sure that the language is really clear in the draft, and we're getting close.
Okay.
And my question is, what process do you want to look at who sees this first? Should it come to you guys first? Should it go to Cortman? Should it go to LMAC?
I'd like to have it, and please everyone weigh in. This is just my perspective. I'd like us to take a look at everything before we give you that perspective. and then decide on a process based on
Okay.
the commission input.
Okay,
Meaning, do we, it may be premature to go out to Cortman, or maybe not, but I really want everyone here to weigh in on it.
okay.
Everyone agree with that approach?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And then, clearly LMAC is very, they're part of the process, and then the formal going back to them is an essential early part of the next step of the process. And, but we'll get to that. I'd like to review everything that we have at one time and then make a decision how we're going to proceed.
Okay, all right, you should have it for the next meeting. I think we're
Okay.
that close. And on that, I have a question. Right before I started working here, there was a zoning change for this section that says, quote, "For impervious surfaces greater than 100 square feet, the first 1-inch flush of stormwater shall be treated with a BMP as identified in section," referring to the section in the regs, "of these regulations, the nutrient allocation worksheet or other methods not listed but approved by staff." The 1-inch flush, some people, John Valenti was not involved with it. I asked him where this came from, and he doesn't know. And he was interpreting it to mean that the 1-inch flush is for rainfall of a 1 inch. You have to assume there'll be a 1-inch rainfall and treat that. He thought it was in addition to what you were doing on your nutrient allocation worksheet.
No, not whatsoever. And we
That's-
discussed whether we were going to do 1 inch or 2 inch, and we settled on 1 inch, if I recollected accurately.
This was in April of 2013. And I've looked through the files in the office and I can't find, and this was, I think, a Stuart Popper time period. I can't find a folder that talks about, I mean, it would have been treated as an application by the commission to the commission. And it should have a folder that has the application and the discussion and why it was started. I don't know if Cortman was the key for this. I don't know where this started.
I don't remember that. I do know that I vaguely more than vaguely recollect that we talked about 1 inch versus 2 inch at the time. And it was not in addition to the nutrient allocation. It was just qualifying what would be part of the nutrient allocation process.
Okay. So this would be a priority to tackle, to use the 1-inch flush criteria as part of?
Well, it's already being done as part of the nutrient analysis.
I know, that's
So,
why
I don't know.
it seems like it's duplicate.
Well, it may in fact be duplicate, but it
Yeah.
wasn't an about face, or it wasn't a stacked on change to the best of my recollection.
Yeah, okay. I think some of the people on LMAC are thinking that it's the nutrient allocation worksheet is working well as the testament of the lake water quality. But he's, so Dan O'Neill has said that there's been some discussion on LMAC as to why was this added and does this need to be there? Because it seems
Maybe it
like,
doesn't.
yeah, okay.
Any thoughts from anybody?
No, I recollect the same thing Rick said.
Yeah, that sounds quite a while ago.
Oh, it's just like yesterday, Tom. Come on.
It was yesterday.
Okay.
You been here that long, Paula?
No, I came right after that, so
Okay.
I came in June of 13.
Are you sure you haven't been here 20 years, Paula?
Wait.
I have been, but most of it was as finance director.
Okay. All right.
What-
I guess we're
one of my-
supposed to
one of
joke
my-
on a meeting. It can get played back and used against us.
The first week that I was of my second stint here, my first week, I was called into the conference room to be awarded a 10-year certificate for having been at the town hall for 10 years, which I thought that was kind of funny. It was my first day back, or first week back.
That's funny.
So the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, and it's under the discussion of additional regulation changes. I've gotten several calls from folks asking if they can do something with larger parcels, and it's been over the last probably 3 months. I've had 3 different phone calls from folks wanting to see if the town would be interested in doing allowing on larger parcels something similar to what we allow for farm wineries, where they could do events. And I was just wondering if you would be receptive to if somebody would submit a regulation revision, which can come from an applicant in addition to us. But if an applicant would put that in, if the board would be receptive to it, the regulation could have all same type of criteria, similar criteria to what we have for the large farm wineries, so that the surrounding residential property would still be protected. So it'd have to be a fairly large property, large setbacks, maybe on a street that could handle the traffic, and the regulations can limit the number of attendees, et cetera. But I was just wondering if you guys would be receptive to receiving an application like that.
Well,
So, Paula-
anybody's allowed to write and propose any type of zone change.
Right.
Vera, let me speak to that. I've always encouraged somebody who's proposing a regulation change to come to us informally and kind of poll us on what our mindset is. So we can say, number one, save them the expense and effort of proposing something no one has interest in. And number two, to save us the time of analyzing and debating something that has very little chance of going forward. You're still free to put an application in for a zone change. Then there's sometimes we become aware of something as a commission that we would want to propose because we think it's an overwhelming public benefit that we never thought about before. So this kind of initial discussion, I think the commission needs a lot more information about what's being desired. If they're proposing a regulation change, I think we would need a lot more information from the applicant. And I would encourage them to come and speak to us and talk about what they're asking for and why they're asking it. And it's non-binding, it's informational, it's informal, but it's just an effort to save all of us time, both the applicant and ourselves.
Right.
Does everyone have a similar perspective?
I'm sorry, I thought you were done. It also gives us an opportunity to look them eye to eye and get an idea of what they really want to do. And how if they want.
Yep, or iPad to iPad.
Huh?
iPad to iPad.
Or
yeah.
iPad to.
No, I mean, in other words, if they come in and they want 500 people in an event, or 75 people at an event, or 100 people at an event. Because I know that, you can screw up the character of the town pretty easy with something like that.
Understood. So, Paula,
The person that I've talked to, one person who's been that seems most interested, and I don't know if he'd be willing to be so public with it at this point. It's property, the regulations. I guess the question I have is if the regulations were similar to what we have for farm winery private events, which has all sorts of criteria in terms of acreage, setbacks, maximum number of attendees, number of times you can do it per year, et cetera. If it was something similar to that, would you be receptive?
I don't want to answer the question. I would want to be able to have, personally, I'd rather have the ability to have a conversation and find out more about what they might propose.
Okay, I will let this person know.
Or what they would like to see. How does everyone else feel about that?
I agree.
So do I. I think you need to look at it.
Yep.
And if they don't want to come forward and do that, that's too bad. But
Yeah.
I think it's
That's the way
just,
I look at it too.
and
Okay.
nothing we're
I
gonna do
just-
can be below the radar. It's got to be out in front. And if, it could either be them or a representative of the potential interested party.
I mean, the only thing I could think that would make him reluctant to come forward is if he hasn't purchased the property yet and he doesn't.
Correct.
And he doesn't want the person who may be selling the property to get wind of it and, play games with the price.
That's exactly what's going on or happening.
That's what I was afraid of.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I will pass that on to him.
I'm not gonna even try and figure that out for somebody. There are solutions there, but that's not within the realm of zoning.
Right.
purview.
But I'm saying that's what I was figuring might be the issue, Rick. That's all.
Okay. Okay, so I think the best thing you could say, Paula, is commission's very open-minded and want to be very helpful, but we would need to have a better understanding of what they're asking about.
Okay, I will pass that on.
Okay. I have to keep waking up my computer to look at the agenda. Sorry, guys. And women. Okay. That's probably all we're going to get into this evening.
Yes.
Communication reports, nothing. Anything anyone wants to bring up as part of the open discussion, members of the commission? Any audience of citizens, questions or comments? That said, I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hey, Justin?
Yes.
Please reach out to me anytime if you have some general questions. I might, this might give you some shortcuts to orientation. Paula?
Yes.
Paula? Is there a seminar put on by the Bar Association this year at Wesleyan, or probably no way with the
Probably
COVID?
not.
Yeah, it's virtual. We I think Flo sent out an email with the information.
I believe.
Okay.
Sometime in March.
March.
Hey, Justin?
Yes.
That's something you might want to consider. I've gone to 3 or 4 of them over the years. And every time, even though I've gone to these seminars before, they have a bunch of the thought